I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show. My name is Tom Baker. I am joined on this beautiful Thursday in Charlotte by my co-host at the round table. Also, our show's producer, Jacob Seelman from Speed 77 Radio. And Jacob, we have got a very, very busy show tonight.
Yeah, we do. It's one that I'm personally really excited about. We got 4 fantastic young drivers, each of whom has a very unique story tonight that we're going to be talking to. 2 of them out of the Turner Scott Motorsports stable and 2 of them out of the Pass South Super Late Model Series that we're going to be hearing from a little later on in the program. Every one of them, always a lot of fun to watch on the racetrack, and certainly were a lot of fun to hear from, Tom, and looking forward to showcasing that to the fans here tonight as well.
No doubt, and as we said, just a beautiful night to be talking racing, at least here in the Charlotte area on a special Wednesday night edition. I should correct myself. This is not Thursday, it's Wednesday, and the reason we are all here is because tomorrow night, of course, the Denny Hamlin Showdown event, and we want to make sure that we step aside for that. So doing a special Wednesday edition, and I'm joined as well by our other co-host for the evening, our Race Chaser Online Northeast New England correspondent, Kyle Souza. And Kyle, lots of stuff starting to happen now in the Northeast. The flowers starting to bloom, and the weather getting above freezing, and y'all are getting set to go racing. I know Stafford's certainly got a big event.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Tom and Jacob. Tom, you said it right. The weather is starting to pick up here, at least I hope. Today we had some torrential downpours in the Massachusetts area, but hopefully that subsides. For this weekend's events and the 30th annual event for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, the 43rd annual Stafford Spring Sizzler. This year sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. The 43rd annual Spring Sizzler weekend kicks off on Friday afternoon with practice sessions. Tom, last year we saw Bobby Santos III take the 200-lapper Sizzler event. Ted Christopher is going to be in the field this weekend. And Tom, when we look at TC this weekend behind the wheel of the J&R Precast Cape Cod Aggregates Chevrolet for Robert Hayton Jr., we've seen the Plainville, Connecticut native win before at Stafford, not only in the Sizzler, but overall. Teddy has 12 wins at Stafford behind the wheel of the Tour. And Tom, we've talked about Teddy before. He's one of those guys that hangs around until the finish, and TC is known as Mr. Excitement when it comes to these modifieds.
TC is known as Mr. Excitement when it comes to anything he's ever driven, I think, there, Kyle.
And that's true. Teddy's been behind the wheel of late models and everything in between it up here, and he's been dominant in anything he gets to. Taking a look at the Sizzler, it's race number 2 for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Perspective, a 200-lap event on the half-mile asphalt oval of the Stafford Motor Speedway. 110 races have been held at Stafford for the Tour since 1985. The Stafford Motor Speedway opened way back in 1970, and as I mentioned, this is the 43rd annual Napa Auto Parts this year Spring Sizzler weekend. Taking a look at the entry list for the Whelen Modified Northern Tour. It's led by Marissa Fairfield, one of the rookie contenders. She's joined in the rookie contenders this weekend by TJ Zacharias in the family-owned 71. Timmy Solomito gets behind Wade Anderson's number 75. Gary McDonald is in the field, and young Tommy Barrett behind Christopher Orr's number 22. Tom, I'm going to throw this to you on this one. I know a guy that you're high on with this tour, Ryan Preece. He struggled to start the year in Eric Sanderson's East-West Marine Metals Ford in car number 16, the defending champion. He's got a rebound, right?
Well, one would think. I mean, that is the way rubber bands work. They stretch away from normal center, but eventually they've got to come back. Also the way of a boomerang. And I would expect that Ryan Preece would be okay. I mean, it's just how it happens sometimes. You have years where you just can't seem to do anything wrong, and then sometimes you have a year where you just can't seem to do anything right. And whether it's, a few weeks or a month or, a season, at times it just seems like everything's cyclic. But, Kyle, I surely cannot imagine Ryan being down in that car for very long.
And that's very true. Ryan's going to be behind the wheel once again this weekend, trying to not only chase the win, but grab some points back after he lost a lot of them at Stafford. Joined in the entry list this weekend by Doug Colby. Car number 2, the Dunleavy's Repair Machine, obviously a severe championship threat. And the Milford, Connecticut native returns this weekend with a strong threat in that number 2. He's won a lot of races here at Stafford. In Wayne Darwing's 52. Talking about Wayne Darwing, he returns to action this weekend with the Reynolds Auto Wrecking Furnace and Duck Chevrolet, driven by Money Matt Hirschman. Car number 52 back in action this week, so watch out for them. Keith Rocco, the Wheelers Automotive, Mr. Reuter Chevrolet, behind the wheel of car number 48. Justin Bonsignor, the Icebreaker winner, returns to the tour, even though he's running full-time with the Valenti Series. He's going to try and run most of these tour races. He's back in action this weekend. We mentioned Tommy Barrett, Rowan Pennick, car number 93, and just announced this afternoon, Tom, a veteran of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Jamie Tomato has a new sponsor this year. The Dunleavy's Auto Repair Machine is going to be back on the track. And Tom, it's good to see not only the young talent in this tour, but Jamie Tomato, one of the oldest drivers to compete on the NASCAR Tour.
Yeah, Jamie's been running a long time. I can remember, I want to say it was probably the early 80s. I remember Jamie Tomato being a good, solid racer on the modified tour. I was still, fairly young anyways, 13, 14 years old. And remember Jamie coming to Oswego with his number 09. And good to see that Jamie is still going. Always a great guy. I remember interviewing him a couple of times at Oswego after modified races. Was always really professional and very nice and enjoyable to talk to. A good interview. So, good to see him still running. And there are, a few of those guys on the tour that are still a part of it.
Yeah, the young talent and the old has come along on this Whelen Modified Tour. I should mention, though, this is not only a Whelen Modified Tour event. Stafford kicking off their regular season as well at the Sizzler. Action kicks off Friday afternoon with practices and qualifying and feature are set for Saturday. The SK Modifieds, the late models, the SK Lights, the limited late models, the Dare Stocks, and the Northeast Mini Stock Tour will join the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour this weekend. Jacob, things heating up here, not only in New England, but Stafford. This is one of those Sizzler weekends that everybody looks forward to. This and the Icebreaker, really the kickoffs up here in New England.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Kyle, and it excites me to see funding back on Jamie Tomato's car. We're talking about Jamie and the fact that he's one of the oldest drivers on the tour. He's competed since the very first season of the Whelen Modified Tour back in 1985, and of all the all-time races at Stafford, he has only missed one out of the entire history of the tour, and that was the very first ever date at Stafford that the Whelen Modified Tour sanctioned in 85. So Tomato, no stranger to success at this racetrack, and I know it's been a long time since he's been to Victory Lane, Kyle, but I can't help but think that if they could get some things going right, that maybe, just maybe, he could be a contender. But I think we'll have to wait and see on that one. Tom, I want to turn to you now as we get set to roll through a little bit more of this first part of the show. We've talked a little bit of Stafford and some modified action. Let's talk a little NASCAR K&N Pro Series East action, because the K&N East Series heading to Richmond this weekend for Friday night's Blue Ox 100. A little bit different than some of the other races they run, because it's going to be in front of all the eyes and the stars of NASCAR. We're going to see a couple of drivers that we've had on this show before take to the track, both looking for their first win of the season, in Cameron Hayley, who we'll hear from in just a little bit, and Brandon Jones.
Both drivers, hard racers, and both outstanding young men who are certainly potential future stars in the Big Three Series of NASCAR. And Brandon and Cameron both capable of winning this weekend, I believe, for sure. And both of them, of course, out of the Turner Scott Motorsports stable. Brandon is a driver that I think definitely bears watching, and a driver that probably our audience may not know a whole lot about. I know we've had him on the show before, but just definitely a very, very capable driver, and I know you've got a little bit more detail on Brandon's background.
Yeah, I do. He ran a couple of truck starts last season for TSM, came out of late models down in Georgia, started his tutelage under Cale Gale and Cale's dad, Bubba. Cale, of course, another driver that came up through the Turner Scott Motorsports stable and has actually served as Brandon's crew chief several times over the course of his young career so far. Cale always very, very, very potent on top of that pit box, and those two have made a great combination several times over the last couple years. But Brandon still looking for that first K&N Pro Series East win, and he seems to think there's a good chance it'll come Friday night at Richmond, providing, of course, the weather holds off. And I got a chance to talk a little more in depth with Brandon about what he thinks is going to go on this weekend at Richmond. So, Tom, let's roll the tape and hear from Brandon Jones. Brandon, welcome back to the show, and certainly gearing up for a big weekend for you guys. The NASCAR K&N Pro Series East headed to Richmond for the Blue Ox 100. Always big when you guys get to run in front of the crowd from the Nationwide and Sprint Cup Series. And this race, 5 of 16 for you. What are your expectations going into Richmond, and how may they have changed now that we're 4 races into the season?
Yeah, well, first off, glad to be back on the show. We've been on here a few times, so looking forward to this. I think our expectations are going to be pretty high, honestly. Last year we got to run this race for Turner Scott Motorsports. We had a great qualifying run and just didn't get to finish the show for, so looking forward to being able to rebound, maybe a little bit and getting us finish the show for.
Richmond, one of the biggest tracks that the K&N Pro Series East runs in 2014. Loudon and Iowa, really the only 2 tracks bigger than the 3/4 mile at Richmond this weekend. And this really a unique track that you guys run, being one of the bigger short tracks, if you will. It's almost not a short track for these K&N cars, but what's going to be different for this race compared to the first couple of races you guys have run this season? Because this is really the first quote-unquote big track event that you guys are running in 2014.
Yeah, the main thing is going to be probably a little more patience, I think, than the rest of the ones we've had, so far this year. Just getting in a rhythm and being able to just log laps and be consistent on lap times. I think that's going to be the key to this one. And, last year it showed you need to stay out of trouble and keep your fingers squeezed as well, and you'll be at the end. So, hopefully we can make all that happen and try to end up on the top there.
And this race different, too, in the format than the 4 previous races you guys have run so far this season. No halfway break this time. It's 100 straight laps of competition at Richmond. Hoping to run it on Friday. I know rain's in the forecast, but how does that change? Because now you don't have that pit stop in the middle of the race to get the car right.
Yeah, we're going to have to work a little extra on practice and try to get the setup dialed in the best we can. But I think you'll have to pace yourself a little bit more without that halfway break, like you were saying, and just pace yourself a little more and keep the fingers clean, like I was saying before, and hopefully you'll be there at the end.
I know you guys were originally planning to run the ARCA race at Salem on Sunday and do double duty this weekend with rain in the forecast. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, but I know you're still really gearing up for some ARCA starts later this season, and I know you've tested a little bit in the ARCA car before. What's your outlook as you get closer to some of those anticipated ARCA starts this season, and how does your mindset have to change a little bit compared to the K&N races?
Yeah, unfortunately we may not be able to run this weekend due to rain like you were saying, but I think just the radial tire on that car is a little different than the bi-supply on the K&N. It's more like the truck, I think, in a way, so we've ran a few truck races as well this year, and I think we'll be pretty for that. Now, the truck's got a little bit of power as well, just like the ARCA car. It's got a pretty big motor in it, so those two things are pretty big factors in transitioning to the K&N to an ARCA car.
Let's talk about that truck start, because you did run last month at Martinsville in the truck series. Had a strong run going, was fighting right around the top 10 late in the going until you got caught up in a skirmish late in the race that really killed a little bit of the momentum that you guys had built up in the second half. But what do you take away from as strong as you did run throughout the race, and what are you going to be able to use for your next truck series start later this season?
Yeah, the guys at Turnstile Motorsports, Shane and everybody gave me an awesome piece for that race, and really looking forward to Dover coming up here in a few weeks. I think we're going to be really good there. Last year we ran the K&N East race there, and we had an awesome car, so really looking forward to getting back in the truck there, and hopefully getting a pretty good finish and a good qualifying spot. I think that'll be key for that, but hopefully looking forward to a pretty decent season of that as well.
And I know gearing up, one of the big things that goes on this weekend at Richmond is the announcement of the NASCAR Next program, which you've seen several of your teammates, Ben Rhodes, Dylan Kwasniewski, Cameron Hayley among them, participate in over the past year. If you were to be selected for the class in 2014, how do you think that would help you going forward into the rest of this season?
Yeah, I think that would help me connect with a few other guys in that NASCAR Next thing. They're all very, very experienced drivers in that. And, like you were saying before, a lot of our teammates in Turnstile Motorsports are in that program. So I have a lot of resources from that, but a lot of other great drivers in the series from other teams are in it as well. So I think I can take a lot from that, if we were accepted into it.
And I know, Brandon, gearing up for Friday, certainly a big weekend for you guys, and you can't do it alone. I'll let you give some shout-outs here. Talk a little bit about who makes it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, of course, at Turnstile Motorsports, Shane Huffman, my crew chief, everybody else on the team, car chief, and all the mechanics, tire guys, and Turnstile Motorsports, Steve Turner and Harry Scott, for all their support and help, and everybody at Wolfpack Energy Solutions and Exide as well. Everybody over there makes it all happen for us. So hopefully we can get a few different things from them this weekend.
And we're looking forward to seeing you on track. Wish you all the best of luck for Friday's Blue Ox 100 at Richmond, and all the best going forward. I know 2014 for you really just heating up. The summer months coming, and more racing going to be on tap soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having us on again as well.
It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Friday at Richmond, it's been on Thursdays in the past. This time going to be just before the NASCAR Nationwide Series race, a little bit earlier in the day, Tom. I think that's going to change just a little bit how this race plays out, but it's always exciting to see these guys on the big stage in front of all the eyes of the Nationwide and Sprint Cup Series. Going to be interesting to see, because this race will be different than any of the other four they've run so far. So we'll see how it plays out. And coming up next, we're going to be hearing from Brandon's teammate, another driver who I think has strong possibilities and really should have a win or two already this season, Cameron Hayley.
Yeah, and let me just address what you said about the race being different. Friday's temperature is supposed to be, I think, in the low 80s during the day. So as long as you said, the everything stays dry and sunny, it should be a very interesting race, and certainly one that's going to be on a much different race track than what you would expect in terms of track temperature. And we'll see how that affects things compared to past years. But yeah, Cameron Hayley, again, we've talked about Cameron and talked with Cameron before on this show, and Cameron, a driver who has just shown a tremendous ability to find the front of the field. Wherever Cameron races, in whatever Cameron races, he always seems to end up at the front of the field. He's just one of these drivers that seems to be able to get through the field. Even, I've seen him even in late race situations where he's had to pass a lot of cars in a hurry, and we've seen him do it multiple times. And again, I just think a driver with a tremendous amount of potential to reach the Sprint Cup Series here in the next few years.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and very possibly going to be selected for a second year in a row, or correction, a third year in a row now, as part of the NASCAR Next program, which will be announced this weekend, actually just before the K&N Pro Series race at Richmond. So we'll be waiting to hear that announcement with bated breath, as will most of NASCAR Nation. But for right now, we're going to take our first caution flag of the evening. And when we come back, you'll hear from Cameron Hayley on his prospects of the Blue Ox 100 at Richmond for the K&N Pro Series East. That's next. After these words, you are listening to Speed 77 Radio, powered by Race Chaser Online. Stay with us.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State,
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown,
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
half empty,
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker,
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio.
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show here on Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Souza around tonight's Speed 77 roundtable, and welcoming back to the program Turner Scott's Motorsports K&N Pro Series East driver Cameron Hayley. Cameron, good to have you back on the show again as always, and certainly an exciting weekend of racing for you coming up, heading with the K&N East Series to Richmond, a track that you have not had the privilege of racing in the K&N East car yet, but certainly one where a lot of the eyes of NASCAR will be watching on Friday night. What do you foresee for this Richmond race? Because it really is one of the more different races than most of the K&N East races you guys run, with 100 laps straight through and no competition break to get the car right.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially knowing Richmond and the history it has there. I mean, it pains me to say it, but the track is really wore out. And it's really tough to gain grip coming off the corners. And, I can't imagine the Sprint Cup cars with all the horsepower they have. But our cars, even the less horsepower we have, it really is really difficult to manage tires coming off. And like you said, it's going to be difficult without that brake to get the car just right to go that 100 laps.
Knowing that the grip is not there, and that's going to be one of the big things you're fighting with, no opportunity to change tires and just searching for so much grip, what's going to be one of the keys for you in the early part of the race to try and get yourself in a position where you can challenge for the victory come a lap 75 or 80 there towards the end of the race?
Well, I think it's really going to start with qualifying. Well, I know we have a really good car. We have a great car that we're bringing there. We're going to be fast, and our first step is going to be qualifying up front. I think we need to start up there, and then it just becomes tire management. I'm not sure what our strategy yet between Marty, my crew chief, and I yet, but we're definitely going to need to save tires for 20, 30 laps before we can start getting going, but I'd like to start at the front so we don't have so much work later on.
Tire conservation, certainly something we've heard a couple times already this season, especially at the most recent K&N East race on the schedule at Greenville-Pickens, a race that you led a chunk of before your teammate Ben Rhodes came back calling and was able to wrestle that victory away. But you guys had a relatively strong run at Greenville. We're persistent. We're up there most of the race. But what's been the difference for you guys so far this season? Because we know you've got the speed and we know you've been competitive. What's been the difference that's kept you out of victory lane?
You know, the biggest thing right now is just a little bit of luck. We've really been lacking that so far this season, and we're looking to find that luck to go along with our speed. I mean, speed's one thing, and I already know we have it. I know we have cars to win. It's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time on the restart. Like we weren't at Greenville. I think if we would have started on the inside, we would have won that race. But it's just about having that little bit of luck to go along with that speed, and we should be right up there winning races like the rest of the guys.
It's certainly been a strong season for the organization as a whole, but for you, this is still your first full season in the K&N East Series. We saw you run in the K&N West Series for a couple seasons, so you've been acclimated to the car some, but for you now, a quarter of the way through the East Series season in 2014, what's been the biggest thing that you've learned transitioning over from the West that maybe has changed your approach or just a little bit here in the early stages of the season?
Well, the biggest thing is probably the depth of cars. I mean, the West Series is a very good series. I had a ton of great competition there, but our field wasn't very deep. There was 4 or 5 guys who could win every race. Coming to the East now, you got 10 guys that could win every race, which makes it a lot more difficult to drop back and save tires when you have 5 more guys that are tougher that you have to pass. So I think that's the biggest thing, and it's always tough going to a new team, getting used to a new crew chief, everything. But I think we're getting along, we're clicking here these past couple races, and we're going to be winning races right away here.
On Friday as well, the announcement of the NASCAR Next class for 2014-2015 going to be announced about midday at Richmond. You were a member of the class 2013-2014. What's the program done for you, and if you're selected to the class again this year, what do you hope to be able to gain from it going forward?
Well, you know, the biggest thing is just media. I mean, we go through tons of media training in the NASCAR Next program, which has helped me a ton. I mean, we go through lots of media training so that when we get to the races, talk to the media, newspaper, TV, everything, we know how to talk to them. So that's been the biggest thing, and I still have lots to learn, and they have lots to teach me still. So I really hope I'm part of the class again this year.
Cameron, I know you can't do it alone, and there's always people and supporters that help make it happen. I'll let you give some shout-outs. Who makes it happen for Cameron Hayley?
I have to give a huge shout-out to my sponsor, Cammett by Hayley. Without them, I would honestly not be where I am today. They've helped me ever since day one, and I just can't say enough about them. My dad, my family, everybody supporting me. It's just amazing. Curb Records came on board this year to help us out, and I can't thank them enough. It's awesome to see another name other than my dad's company on the car, and hopefully we'll have good relationships with them going forward.
And Cameron, we know you're looking forward to get on track. We wish you all the best going forward this week as you head to Richmond for Round 5 of the K&N Pro Series East, and look forward to touching base with you again as the season continues for your run at the 2014 East Series Championship.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for having me on, and I look forward to talking to you again when we have that win at Richmond this weekend.
And I tell you what, certainly as we look at this Friday night show at Richmond, I know we've talked to Brandon Jones and Cameron Hayley, but one of the drivers that I think is going to be a contender that we have not talked about is a driver who, while he's won 3 straight poles, did not qualify well in this event at all last year, but is also out of the same stable as the 2 drivers we've already talked to this evening, and that's Ben Rhodes. I think despite the fact that Ben has run less races in these cars than his 2 counterparts, I think his experience from this race a year ago, because he had a good run going, is going to pay him some dividends. And we talk about these Turner Scott Motorsports guys all the times, but really, they are the ones to beat.
Well, they really are. And I think in Ben's situation, it's just another year older, another year wiser, another year of comfort level. And I think Ben has just gotten to a point where he's matured into, or as I've heard it said a couple of times about young drivers by other people, he's grown into his shoes, or, grown into his feet. Finally, I think he's just at a point where he's driving at or above the level where he's at now. And I agree with you. I think Ben's going to be very, very tough in this race. And, I make no bones about the fact that I would expect to see Ben Rhodes make a fairly rapid ascension in this sport if the opportunities are there and he gets the chance to run quality equipment. And I think, that's the key for a lot of these kids. I mean, right now they're in top-notch equipment at the levels they're at, but of course, if they want to get to the Sprint Cup Series and be competitive, you've got to find a quality ride. And, there are a lot of cars in the Sprint Cup Series, but there aren't, obviously a lot of those cars are not competitive for wins right now. So I think a lot of the future of all of these drivers in the Turner Scott stable, as they get to the point where they're ready to move up to the nationwide or the cup level, certainly the cup level anyway, it's going to depend on the situations they put themselves in, because, obviously if you get into the wrong situation, it can actually be a step backwards for you. And I think we've seen that this year in a few cases on the Cup Series now. So, I think Ben has definitely got a good shot at winning this race, and I think all year long you're going to be seeing Ben at or near the front of the fields, just like the other guys in the stable.
And I can't do anything but agree with that, because that's really a lot of what I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to see these guys battle it out on Friday night at Richmond International Raceway. The Blue Ox 100 going to be televised on a tape delay basis on Fox Sports 1. So we're going to be looking for all the Turner Scott Motorsports drivers to make some noise on Friday night. But for now, we're going to take our halfway caution flag, and when we come back, we are going to shift gears a little bit. Kyle Sousa's got some New England news and notes to pass along, and then we're going to move into some Pass South Series conversation as we hear from 2 of their young stars who impressed a lot of people over the weekend at Hickory Motor Speedway. Still to come, Harrison Burton and Tyler Dippel. First, these words: you are listening to Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a Motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. Nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
For every turn, a twist. For every start, an untimely finish. For every win, someone who loses it. For every number, a nation. For every celebration, a brawl. For every split second, years of work. For every heaven, a hell. For every good old boy, a good old girl. For every curse, a prayer. For every ounce of order, a jug of chaos. For every twist, there's a turn.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show here on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and our New England native Kyle Souza here around the round table tonight. And Kyle, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you've got still a lot of things to talk about here tonight, especially in our New England news and notes.
Well, Jacob, let's take a look back at what happened this past weekend up here in New England, and I want to start with just quickly going over the second event on the NASCAR Wheel and not the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. The Valenti Modified Racing Series is set for their third race coming up in a little bit at Seacock, but race 2 was held this past Saturday at the Monadnock Speedway in Winchester, New Hampshire, and it was taken by defending champion Rowan Pennock, the Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania driver, and Roscoe Racing and Gary Casella's number 25, dominating, really, the last half of the race. He led from lap 70 to 100, and he had led the first 5 after he started on pole. Qualifying heat winners were Todd Szegedy, Mike Willis Jr., and Pennock, respectively. 26 cars showed up, 25 started with 1 dropout. The race took just under an hour to complete. There were 4 different leaders during the event. Rowan Pennock, Justin Bonsignor, Rob Ricciardi was able to lead a lap in the fray, and Todd Szegedy was also able to pick one up. Rookie of the race was Mike Millis Jr. The Hans Cleaner Award went to Matt Mead. The Sherwood Wheels Award went to Todd Szegedy. The Spafco Most Improved Driver during the race was Steve Massey, picking up 12. Funny story on this, Pennock won this race last year, and that boosted him to win a couple more and go on to win the championship. So we'll see if that has anything to do with it. Justin Bonsignor came home second. We mentioned him earlier. He'll be competing at Stafford this weekend as well. Steve Massey, third. Chris Pastriak and Todd Szegedy continues his Valenti Tour schedule with a top 5 finish. Also last weekend at Waterford Speed Bowl, the SK Modified portion going to Tyler Chadwick in an absolute fantastic battle between he and Keith Rocco, right down to the wire. There last past Saturday night in the 35-lap SK Modified portion. So Rocco coming home second to Chadwick on that one. And also Rocco taking the late model portion, so continuing his winning ways at Waterford last week. The New England Wheel and All-American Series Racing for NASCAR's Waterford Speed Bowl continues this coming Saturday night with the SK Modifieds, the late models, the SK Light Modifieds, the Street Stocks, the Mini Stocks, and a special appearance by the INEX Legend Cars. Finally, this coming weekend, the Seacock Speedway starting its final preparations for opening day, which is not this Sunday, but the following one, May 5th. They will hold an open mini cup practice this weekend in set on Saturday afternoon in set. So with that, Jacob, that's this week's New England News and Notes. Stafford Sizzler also coming up this weekend. The News and Notes concludes, and I'll throw it back to you.
Hey, Tom, you don't think he's a little excited about the Sizzler, do you? I think I heard Wheel and Modified Tour like 4 times in that, and 3 times he was going for Valenti.
Yeah. Well, I can't blame him. If I were up there, I'd be excited about the Sizzler too. That's one of those races, and I almost think that years ago, I remember hearing a Stafford Spring Sizzler race live on MRN. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I know I remember some Martinsville races that MRN broadcast live. And I almost want to say there was a sizzler at one point too, but that's just another one of those races, Jacob, like you and I talked about last week with the Easter Bunny 150 being one of those coveted trophies. The sizzler has had so many of the sport's most famous names attached to a winning flag, a winning trophy after that race. That's just one of those modified races you just really want to win, Kyle.
Yeah, Tom, and it's going to be going on this weekend. You mentioned the MRN forecast. I'm a little off up here tonight. MRN did broadcast a MRN Sizzler, and as I look at the year, it appears to me as if it was 2002 that MRN got on the side route with the Wheel and Modified Tour. And yes, it is the Wheel and Modified Tour, not the Valenti Tour. The Valenti Tour heads for Seacock in 2 weeks for their third event after coming off Monadnock, and the Sizzler is for the Wheeling Tour, Jacob, this weekend at Stafford.
Hey, Kyle, at least you can get the Seacock date right because you work there, so that makes it easy.
Yeah, that makes things pretty easy for me. I'm looking forward to that. We have a fantastic opener coming up, not this Sunday, but the following one, with our 4 main pro stock, weight model, truck, and street stock divisions, and this year being joined by the Valenti Modified Racing Series. So that should be interesting. Hopefully the New England weather continues to grow, and we can get a lot of racing up here, especially with the modified portion.
Hay fever, Tom, that's it. Hay fever.
Yeah. That's it. Well, that's his story, and he's sticking to it.
How about our story? Let's talk some pass racing, shall we? The Easter Bunny 150, Tom, you and I were there over the weekend. Got rain postponed to Sunday, but boy, when we got to Sunday, finally, it was an awesome show. The weather was fantastic, and the racing was even more so. I think I counted about 10 different lead changes during the race between 5 or 6 different guys, and I want to talk about some of the guys who really impressed, not just DJ Shaw, the race winner who won it on a last lap pass of the hometown favorite Tyler Church, but 2 young guys who impressed a lot of people. Tyler Dippel, 14 years old, originally from New York, who led a lot of laps late in the race, and another driver with a very famous last name who we'll hear from first, and that's Harrison Burton.
Well, yeah, you said a mouthful in that sentence, so let's kind of go back and unpack that a little bit, especially as we got toward the closing laps of that Easter Bunny 150. Church was definitely in session, but then DJ Shaw took Church to school, clearly violating the separation of church and state laws. And while all that was going on, Harrison Burton wound up around backwards on the last lap coming out of turn 2. And our other guest, Tyler Dippel, just absolutely had the race of his life at Hickory. That show between those 4 drivers and about 2 or 3 more throughout the race was just an amazing late model feature. I really, really enjoyed that. And you're right. We'll start with Harrison Burton. And Harrison I think we all knew that Harrison was capable of running at the front of the field, but neither you nor I, Jacob, had ever actually watched Harrison run a race quite like this. And this is a pretty big stage. Another one of those races that you want the trophy on your mantle. And both Harrison and Tyler Dippel almost got it. It was really close for both of them.
Yeah, it really was, and Harrison did a masterful job, and I think we saw that all the way back to in February when he was running the World Series at New Smyrna in the Pro Late Model car, and ultimately took the victory in the 100-lap Pro Late Model feature that headlined their portion of the World Series down at New Smyrna. Did a masterful job in that race as well, and has impressed a lot of people. I mean, there's no question he's got the talent just like his father had, and he's got the cool head that a lot of people knew Jeff for in his time in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, because Jeff Burton's the kind of driver who is analytical, but he's also very collected about things, and I can see a lot of that in the way Harrison took what happened on the last lap and what happened when he was fighting Tyler Dippel for the race lead on a couple of those late race restarts. Those two fought very, very hard with a lot of poise for drivers just 14 years old. And though Harrison didn't get the finish he ultimately deserved, certainly turned a lot of heads.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, that was really a good show for both of those racers, and really to run that well against some of the top drivers in super late model racing from both past series. I mean, DJ Shaw from the north, and you had several of the guys from the south mixing it up throughout the event. Preston Peltier, who owns the car that Tyler Church was driving, although Preston was actually running the Hamke house car over that weekend. But it just really was quite a race for both of those guys, and I think we've got Harrison on deck right now.
Yeah, we do. We're going to roll the tape right here and hear from Harrison Burton. I got the chance to catch up with him just after the Easter Bunny on Sunday, and he had a lot to say about a very strong run. Jacob Seelman for Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com here on the pit lane at Hickory with Harrison Burton. Harrison, I don't know where to start. You just had an incredible run in the Easter Bunny 150, led a lot of laps on the afternoon. It looked like the car got away from you on the late race restarts, but talk about your run and what this kind of a run means for your season.
I feel like, our run had a lot of ups and downs. In the beginning of the race, I had an altercation, I guess you could say, with the 62. It was totally my fault, and I accidentally took him out of the race. I'd like to apologize for that. After that, we just went on and just kept on racing and, trying to learn from every single lap and getting better from it.
Looking at this race in regards to your whole season, you started off the year strong, got a big win down in Florida during Speed Week at New Smyrna with the win in the 100-lap Pro Late Model feature. Now you come here into the past South races in the Super Late Model and have a strong run like you did here today at Hickory. What's this season been like for you so far? Has it lived up to your expectations?
It's lived up to my expectations and more, just having so many great finishes and learning so much along the way. And I think it's a testament to not only me, but my crew as well, because they put in a lot of work to help me run like this, and I can't thank them enough.
Talking about your crew, I know there's been one more person on that crew that's been a big help to you over this season, and that's your dad, Jeff. Certainly been able to learn a lot from him over this year. What's that help been like for you, knowing where he's been and where he's trying to bring you?
Well, it definitely brings me some confidence, knowing that I can believe in what he tells me, and, just learning from him as much as I can and having fun while doing it.
And he's going to go a long way, I have a feeling. Harrison, I know you can't do it alone. I know there's a lot of people and supporters behind you that help make it happen. So I'm going to let you give a few shout-outs. Who makes it happen for Harrison Burton?
All right, well, first off, I'd like to thank everybody in my crew: Hayden Reeves, Kevin Hollenbach, Ben Harrison, Ryan Stanley, Freddie Query, my dad, my mom, Dex Imaging, Cessna, just everybody who works so hard to help me be where I am today. Can't thank them enough.
Again, he's just 13 years old, but going to go a long way. He got a bright future in this sport. Harrison Burton has a very strong run here in the Easter Bunny at Hickory. And Tom, I tell you what, very well spoken, very collected, as we've referenced, and Harrison, I think, has a very bright future. We're going to see him in more of these past South races before the end of 2014, so I'll be intrigued to see what else that he can do coming up as the season progresses. But right now, we are going to take our final caution flag, and when we come back, we will hear from another 14-year-old who proved a whole lot to a lot of people this weekend. Originally from New York, Tyler Dippel. We'll talk about his run in the Easter Bunny 150 when we come back. You are listening to Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com. The Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show concludes right after this.
For 17 years, Stock Car Steel has been a leading materials supplier to the racing industry. We're proud they're a Motorsports content partner here at Race Chaser Online. The biggest names in NASCAR trust Stock Car Steel for raw materials such as carbon steel, chrome moly, DOM, aluminum, plastics, and much more. You can't build a race car without the basic materials, and Stock Car Steel is the place to get them. Don't forget to also visit Stock Car Steel's sister company, SRI Supplies, for racing and industry. SRI is the place to go for all your shop supply needs. supplies, nuts, bolts, rivets, tapes, adhesives, cutting tools, chemicals, body shop supplies, paint shop supplies, lubricants, and more. A well-stocked race shop is a winning race shop, and the path to winning begins with 3 letters, SRI. For more information, visit stockcarsteel.com or SRI-supplies.com. Check them both out on Facebook or call them toll-free at 1-888-752-7272, 1-888-752-7272.
Every Saturday you wake up and wonder, is this going to be it? Is this going to be the day? The day it all clicks. The day you break through. The day you stand out above the rest. The day everyone remembers who you are. The day you stop wondering if you belong here. Is this going to be the day?
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Welcome back to the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. Jacob Seelman, Tom Baker, and Kyle Souza have been around the round table here tonight. And Tom, as we get ready to close tonight's show, going to hear from one more of the Pass South drivers who proved a lot to a lot of people and is also 14 years old. Tyler Dippel, originally out of New York, and by far the biggest surprise of the 2014 season. Not that those watching him, because he originally started on dirt, not that those watching him didn't expect good things and possibly even great things, but I don't think we could have even expected the kind of to his Pass South career that young Tyler has had.
No, not at all. I mean, talk about a major step up, and yet for him, it's really not necessarily a major step up. It's a different discipline, but, you know, racing the dirt sportsman cars and the small block dirt modified cars up north is a highly competitive and highly challenging environment, and young Tyler has just done very, very well and gotten some great experience out of that, been very successful, and now has taken that ability behind the wheel, that skill that he has, and applied it to the pavement late models, and of course, again, stepping right into a class that could be considered a lion's den, the Pass South Division. And you know what, to lead the Pass national points as he is right now, after the start he's had in the race that he ran at Hickory, just an unusual amount of poise behind the wheel for this young man, in a situation where a lot of drivers his age, even with his experience, frankly, would just crumble.
That's absolutely right, and that was no more evident that when he took the lead and ultimately lost it to Tyler Church, but the poise he showed when the two of them were battling side by side for 15 or 20 laps there towards the end of that race. Dippel never flinched, even when Church was applying all the pressure he possibly could on the outside of the racetrack, trying to make a lane past that one car. Tyler Dippel never blinked, he never flinched, and ultimately, though he gave way, he put up one heck of a fight against the Pass South veteran, and I'll say, in my mind, is very indicative of the fact that why, as a 14-year-old rookie, he is currently leading the Pass national standings.
Well, that's exactly right. And you talk about the pressure that was being put on him. You know, one of the things in the late models, for those who don't have the opportunity to watch that kind of racing, one of the inherent techniques in the late model is to kind of try to get into somebody's left rear quarter panel, get them a little bit sideways, slide them up the track. You get Tyler sideways, he just laughs at you. He's raced on dirt with a sportsman, I think a small block modified as well. You get him out of shape, that isn't going to rattle his cage any. He's just going to straighten it out and keep going and make you kind of look at him and go, what?
That's exactly right. And Dippel certainly was one of the most impressive drivers because you're right. You almost have to run Hickory a little bit sideways. And I think that was indicative of Dippel's driving style and the fact why he was as impressive as he was on Sunday afternoon, because the track was greasy and slick, and I think it played into his hands just a little bit. But we mentioned he was leading in the Pass National points. He's currently 4th in Pass South Region points for 2014, just 60 markers out of the championship lead. This kid, Tom, is one that's a contender, and I wouldn't discount him for one or possibly both championships.
I know it, and it really is amazing. And it's great to see somebody so young that can just get behind the wheel and run with the veterans like he does. And, he's a very unassuming young man. Not, you'd expect somebody that was doing what he was doing. And it's really the same with Harris and Burton. Both of them very kind of calm and cool, I guess chill kids, as you might use the vernacular today. But, they're not the brash, bold, sort of, self-confident types that you would think they would be by their driving styles. They just get behind the wheel and quietly go get it done, and then get out of the car, and they're as fan-friendly and easygoing as it gets, and just refreshing to see young folks like that. And Tyler is certainly a driver who's shown the ability to get it done under pressure on both surfaces and proven his talent. I think we are getting set to hear from him.
Yeah, we are. We got a chance to catch up with Tyler following that big run and a top 5 finish at Hickory. So let's hear from Tyler Dippel to get ready to close tonight's Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports show. Jacob Seelman for Speed 77 Radio and RaceChaserOnline.com after a wild Easter Bunny 150 here at Hickory Motor Speedway with 5th place finisher Tyler Dippel. Tyler, you led a lot of laps, just 14 years old, a rookie in the Pass Series this year, and impressed a lot of people today. Talk about your run and some of the stuff that you experienced during the race, because when you were out front, the car really looked good today.
Yeah, I mean, the car was really good in the beginning. We were just trying to pace ourselves, and as the race went on, like lap 100, it didn't seem like anyone was really pacing themselves anymore. Everyone was pretty much just going, and we just went for the lead, and we got past Harrison there, and we just kept plugging along at the lead and just went away last 10 laps. There was nothing I could really do.
As strong a run as you had the lead late, could see the checkered flag and the trophy in sight. What do you take away from a run like this that you can use going forward, maybe to make that difference a little bit better?
Just long race setup, just try and pace yourself more and just work on longer run setups. I think we had a lot. There was 2 pretty long green flag runs. Maybe it burned up the tires a little bit, just being out front, setting the pace, just work on the long race setup some more.
I know you're a rookie in the Pass Series. What can we expect for the rest of 2014 for you? Where can we expect to see Tyler Dippel on track?
Hopefully like it was today.
And I know you can't do it alone. Talk a little bit about who makes it happen for you.
My mom and dad and all the crew, Buggy Pletcher, Tie Car Trenchless Technologies, and all the other people that help us at the track every week.
He impresses a lot of people, comes up top 5 here today as a rookie in the Pass Series. Tyler Dippel, 5th in the Easter Bunny 150. We keep talking about poise, Tom, and that's exactly what he shows even in the interviews that he gave following the event. He wasn't rattled. He gave his piece real calm, real collected, and just told it like it was. And what it was a very strong run from a very talented young man who I think has the potential to do some pretty great things as a rookie this year in the Pass South Tour. And even talking to Alan Dietz, he's said it a couple times too, that he has been very impressed with this young man. And it's been a little while since he's seen somebody that's just come into the Pass South ranks exactly like Dippel has. I think the last driver I remember, somebody by the name of Ryan Blaney. That name sounds a little familiar.
Well, but as much as I enjoy watching Ryan run and am happy for his success, and as much as I can call him a friend of mine, Ryan did not show the kind of poise in his rookie year that Tyler has. Ryan took a couple of years to get that long race mentality down, and Tyler is just coming. I think, again, a lot of this is car control, and the dirt experience, no doubt, has contributed greatly to his car control skills, and he's able to feel a race car, I think, probably more so than even some of the older drivers do, just based on the experiences he's had. He, and he really showed that later in the race because, he fought back and hung on, and I think the car, as he said, was starting to go away, and he hung on as long as he possibly could, and I think probably longer than some other guys might have. He's just got this desire and this drive that shows up as soon as he puts the helmet on, and he's certainly got a future in the sport if he keeps going the way he's going and develops himself and works on the off track stuff, because at this age that's what they all need, and it's about marketing and separating yourself from the pack, and Tyler's just certainly got a lot of potential behind the wheel, and he showed that the other day. That was a great race overall, Jacob. A really, really enjoyable race to go watch and be a part of, and of course Walker Yates winning the pro late model portion of that particular event as well, with a nice pass, I think 10 or 11 to go. He took the lead and ended up winning that race. So really a terrific race day on Sunday at Hickory Motor Speedway, and considering that it was Easter, Jacob, and certainly the show was supposed to have been run the day before, but unless they were going to race boats, that wasn't going to happen. So I thought the crowd was good considering the circumstances, and certainly the racing was fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. The fans that came out got their money's worth, and I loved it. It was a great show. Thank you to Alan Dietz for having us out, and looking forward to the next time we can go cover a pass race this season. Always fun to see those guys in action, and believe it or not, that is about going to do it here, Tom. Any last-minute thoughts before we close tonight? I know certainly we've got Richmond, we've got the Sizzler on tap this weekend, we've got the Denny Hamlin Short Track Showdown tomorrow night. That's always exciting.
I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend to be a race fan, and hopefully Mother Nature cooperates and allows all those shows you just mentioned to go off without a hitch, and we get to come back at our regular day and time next Thursday night at 7 p.m. to do this all again. And, of course, we have Motorsports Madness on Monday at 7, and we talk not just everything we're talking about here, but a whole lot more in the way of different disciplines and local and national racing and driver interviews and all that good stuff. So next Monday for Motorsports Madness, and then back to Thursday next week for the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show.
That's right, and that will do it here tonight for our portion here on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. That's the checkered flag on the Stock Car Steel SRI Motorsports Show. So, for my co-hosts, Tom Baker and Kyle Souza, want to say a special thank you to all of our guests tonight, Tyler Dippel, Harrison Burton, Cameron Hayley, and Brandon Jones. Thanks to all of them for giving a little of their time and joining us here on the show tonight. And until Monday for Motorsports Madness at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm Jacob Seelman, reminding all you race fans out there to keep it off the wall until we meet again. And if you're going to the racetrack this weekend, have a safe racing weekend, and we'll see you at the track. Until next time, so long!